Welcome to the Odds Fitness Podcast. I'm Asad Hussain, the founder of Odds Fitness, and today we have Dr. Elie Abirached. Welcome to the Odds Fitness Podcast.
Thank you.
He's the founder of Limitless Human and Restore. Restore is the recovery arm of the business, of course, and his core central idea is that recovery is so important in today's day and life, where a lot of aspects, like when people look at exercise and nutrition, they often forget about recovery. He has this amazing place in Dubai. If anybody wants to reach out and actually get deep dive into what their exercise strategy should look like and what their nutrition plan could look like and how is it that they can recover better, please visit his place. Look up Limitless Human. And so kind of you to come here for this podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Right.
It's such a privilege.
So, you and I come from the same space. Just for our audience, so that they know what inspired you to be in this, let's say, unique space. Like it's not like somebody's first go-to. Like somebody might look at other career opportunities and all of that. So tell us a little bit about yourself, how your journey began, and what inspired you to be here.
Yeah. So it's less of a career for me and more of who I am. It wasn't something that I was looking into. It was always something that I've done almost instinctively. And I think it all started more of a self-preservation because I don't know if you know, but I come from Lebanon and I live in Beirut. And I was a child when I was there, early teenage years. It was a very rough place to live in. And I took up exercising almost religiously. And later on, when I did my sort of trauma work and other things like that for my brain health, I realized that it was like a protective mechanism that then led to a lifelong pursuit of staying healthy and strong. But also we have cancer in the family. My parents died when I was younger, both in the same year. So there was these moments in life where they continuously propel you towards what your purpose is or what you're meant to be doing. So it wasn't, for me, it feels as if it's always been my destiny to be in this space and for myself and for others. Because every little thing that you do, regardless if it's part of a career or not, influences other people, right? So my kids, my family, my friends, the people that work with me, they're all influenced by the things that I do. So if they see you with unhealthy habits, people instinctively think, well, that's okay, So especially if people that are, that you respect and they respect you back, that you have a good relationship with, or especially your kids, for example. It's important to recognize that and understand that our action especially influences the people that love us the most. So it wasn't really a career choice. It wasn't like one moment I woke up and I said, okay, let me explore this exciting new space. I've always been doing it. And then later in life, after a few successful entrepreneurial endeavors, I sensed a void where I went on some self-exploration as far as, spiritual healing, mental healing, but also pushing the limit of what physically I could do. So I took on marathon running, and within the space maybe of just a couple of years, I did close to 50 marathons. I was doing quite a few marathons per year. And then my body was breaking down, and I wanted to understand how can I make it more resilient. Obviously, with age at the same time is taking place, we degeneration happens, from age 20. This is when I took a deeper dive into recovery and understanding how the body recovers and what does it need. And as you mentioned at the beginning, the importance of recovery is key, and most people miss it. And simply, just to give you the importance of recovery, just to give you an idea about what does that mean to me and to many other people. But let's think of the elite athletes, the top 1% of elite athletes, people that are in the Olympics, people that are record breakers, etc. Training is a major part of their lives, and it's no secret, right? So they're committed, they're disciplined, etc. But what they truly get differently between number two and them being number one is actual recovery. And if you ask any athletes, this is where the change happens. This is where adaptation takes place. So exercising is easier than recovery because there is endorphins. It's exciting. It's usually with other people. You feel that you're doing something. You feel better afterwards. All of that. While recovery is more of a commitment that you make to yourself and to your body, and to allow it to adapt what you did during the workout. When you don't do that, that's why people don't see any benefits. That's why people don't lose the fat that they want to lose, have the muscle growth that they wish to have, or have the strength that they want to, and so on. So recovery is where the real magic happens. And this is what differentiates a number one athlete from a number two athlete. It's that edge. It's that person recovers better than this person.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Right. So, while you were saying, while you were telling us about your life journey, I was reflecting upon mine. Both my parents, they got separated, remarried when I was about 15, 16 or 17. And exercise is a go-to place for many people who are trying to, identify with who they are, right? And also it's a coping mechanism with a lot of traumas, a lot of incidents. A lot of people go to exercise once, they get divorced or they have breakups to rediscover themselves. And I think somewhere or the other, with movement becoming so, how do you say, neglected in some areas and oversold in many. That's where the recovery aspect of it comes in. If people are able to identify themselves as exercise lovers, then 100% recovery becomes paramount for them. But let's say there's a huge space of individuals who absolutely neglect exercise, right? What is it that maybe you do with some clients of yours who often struggle with going to exercise and sticking to an exercise routine? What are some maybe motivational strategies or, habit building strategies? Or you're just like, okay, you know what, whenever it is that you need me, you come then, and that's about it. That way you filter the serious lot. Or do you have a strategy where you also try and help individuals who constantly struggle with sticking to a plan like that?
It depends. In general, yes, we take on people and we're very clear with them at the beginning. You say that you will be doing most of the work. There are no magic pills. We can't do the stuff, the work for you. You have to be committed to this if you're looking for results. In general, this is what we kind of make sure that people understand the concept of building a health span and a healthy lifestyle.
Right.
So, but in some cases, sometimes I identify individuals where I see that they're self-sabotaging, right? So they have decided at some point that movement or being healthy or having less brain fog or having more energy during the day is something they don't deserve for some point, from aspect that's happening in their lives. Usually it's trapped trauma, usually there's situations in their lives, usually it's self-esteem, etc. And they then rank workouts as less important than whatever they think is the most important in their lives.
Yeah.
And we're, as human beings, we're excellent at a few things. And perhaps the number one thing that we're really excellent at is finding excuses. We find excuses to everything. So no matter what it is, be it good, bad, or ugly, we find excuses for them, one way or the other. And the other thing that we're really, really, really good at, and this is because of the way our brain is structured, is comfort, seeking comfort, always. We want something that is, a car that is softer on the road, a mattress that is plushier, a cushion that reclines and lifts you up. Everything has to be a little more comfortable. While you think of your body and the capabilities that it has, the intricacies, the way that it moves, that amazing system that works in sometimes seemingly in mysterious ways, we then degrade it into, sitting in cars for hours, putting stuff into our body that are literally, kind of poisoning us. And most of this comes from a place of self-esteem. So we think we're not worth it. We think that what's the use? Why would I need that? And if something happens, I could always go see a doctor and they'll do something about
Yeah.
it. So until you stump your toe and your whole universe becomes unimportant, less important than your toe. Yeah. So it's as simple as something like that, getting a small cut or just hitting your toe at the edge of a table. But even with that, we still go back to our own view of how we should be living our lives.
Right.
And again, it all stems from self-esteem. So when I feel that there is a crack in that armor, if I'm able to show the person that this is not an issue of you being able to do it or not able to do it, but this is more of an issue of a self-sabotage. I always say in my talks and for whenever I get the chance is that usually the most toxic person in the room is ourselves, our thoughts, what happens in our head. We're constantly doubting. We constantly think that everyone else is thinking about us, while everyone else is thinking the same, and everyone is really thinking about themselves. We're constantly, sort of judging if we're going to be able to do one thing or not, if we're going to be getting to that point or not. Imagine if you take out the thoughts that happen in your head and you put them next to you and you put them into another person and have that person say these stuff to you, you would not accept it. You would move away from that person. You would tell them, what's wrong with you? But we're constantly doing that without being aware of it. So shedding that light changes everything for people when they realize that they're self-harming, they're self-sabotaging, their potential to be healthier, happier. And as you said earlier, when you move, the world becomes a better place. Not just for you, for everyone else.
Right.
But movement is life. It's as simple as that. But when you move, means more clarity. You have more oxygen to the brain. You are better to you make better decisions. You're less likely, far less likely to have road rage, for example, or be annoyed by someone being, presenting to you out of their ego. So I think movement is everything, and it feeds into a lot of other things. And then obviously, because we're complicated beings, other things come into play too. As I said, such as making sure that the body also rests after movements and letting it adapt whatever strains that you put it through. As we said earlier, it's addictive. You want to do more and more, but actually holding yourself back at certain points will yield much better results if you don't.
Right.
So it's that when I see that crack, I try to sort of break it down and let the individual understand this. And at the same time, it's always a reminder for myself too, and the team also, to see that, because no matter how aware you are, sometimes you slip back into that place where you feel, oh, maybe I'll skip tomorrow. Oh, leg day, let's do something else. Something, it's always, your body is always trying, not your body, but your mind more than your body is trying to sabotage you in some way or the other. So staying true and shedding awareness on it, when you shed light on something, it disappears, So, but in general, we encourage individuals to come with discipline, because most of them come with motivation. So the key is to shift from that motivation into discipline in order for them to achieve the goals that they want to achieve.
Yeah. For many people, it gets a little difficult because they've lived their lives a certain way. And that's why they need your help, right?
Yeah.
Because, if they were just exercising on their own and doing the things that they wanted to do, they probably don't see why they would need external help for somebody to, maybe sort of, maybe help with recovery 100%. But most exercise lovers that I've seen, they're like, okay, you know what, I'll just go for my run, do my exercise. I don't need to track my VO2. Now these days, people are trying to outperform. They want to be like the 1% of the best athletes. But for general populations, they're like, okay, I'll be fine anyway, because if I've got 50% of this and 25% of this and 25% of this sorted, I'm mostly covered.
Yeah.
So let's, talk a little bit about nutrition and fasting. so to speak? Like, these days fasting is big. You would like to club it with nutrition. What would your strategy be if, we were to have a blanket approach for people, even though I understand it's highly individualistic? But if someone were to watch this podcast, what can a regular person do in a daily life like journey, like, on a day-to-day basis with nutrition, grossly, to be healthier in general?
So there's a couple of things I would say here. One is that I'd like to start by saying that fasting is certainly not new. We've had it for millennia.
Right.
Yeah. So as old as religion, we've had fasting. There isn't a religion out there that doesn't experience some sort of fasting.
Yeah.
We've always had that. So we've always known that fasting has a benefit for the body, and not just the body, also the mind, right? But if you go back even further than that, when we lived in caves, right? What did we do? We didn't walk into a supermarket every time we felt hungry to pick up something to eat regularly throughout the day, steady meals, minimum 3 meals per day, etc., and snacking in between. We had food when we were able to catch it. When we caught our dinner, we ate. When we didn't, we didn't. So therefore, if you go on for 3, 4, 5 days without food, it was tolerable. You did that. Our bodies are designed for that, right? So as hunter-gatherers, this is what we're made to do. So fasting has always been part of our physiology. It's nothing new, and it's not a new health hack. The problem with it is that sometimes we overanalyze it and we overuse it, just like everything else. Because when there's benefit in something, we overdo it. And as a general rule for me, more is never more. Balance is always more, right? So that's the number one thing I would say. The other thing that I would say is that, as you said, it's very individual and even different between men and women. The third thing I would say is that you need to understand that fasting is also a stressor on the body, right?
Yes.
Most people don't miss that, unfortunately. So that's why it's key to understand when is the best time for you to fast as an individual, no matter what it is. What does that mean? Meaning that if you are living in a period of time during the year where your work is at its busiest, or you've just had a virus and you don't feel great, you just had a cold, flu, whatever, it may not be the best time when your body is already a little stressed for you to actually add stress to it with a fast. While people go to it as if it is the end all, right? So understanding overall what is happening with your body and what are your stress sources, you'll be able to plan your fasting accordingly so you're always managing it, right? So that's in general what I would say. Now, which one is better? 2 days, 1 day, water, bone broth, 10 days every once a year, like all of these different stuff. You cannot classify them, and you cannot distinguish and say this 1 day would be best for, or 3 days would be better. You have to experiment with your own body and all the influences that are around you in your life, what happens throughout a year, because that's how I look at it. I look at it in a year's sort of plan, if you like. In different parts of the year, your body goes through, and seasons affect it, heat affects it, amount of work affects it, the amount of workout that you do. I'll give you a quick example. For example, this time of year, as you know, especially here, this part of the world in the Middle East, this is the peak season for events, conferences, talk shows. It's all of that stuff, right? It's back to back, and you've seen what I do. So during this time, I consciously reduce my amount of workouts. Because if I keep the same thing with the amount of stress and work that I have, I will burn out. But people don't realize that I need to make adjustments. When one area of my life is becoming a little more stressful, I adjust it so I'm able to not fall sick, still sleep well, control my cortisol, control my fat weight and gain, and so on. So I'm able to make these adjustments as I go along. Now I know, for example, from tomorrow, from Monday, I have 4 weeks of bliss. No events, hardly any clients around. The holidays are around. Obviously, there are other stressors of the holidays. But I use this time to truly put a serious workout routine where I now, because all of the other stresses have died down, I can then push that into where I normally do. And then this is how I manage all the time throughout the year. And if you think of it that way, you could fit in your fasting accordingly, right? You plan it ahead of time. We plan everything in our lives. We plan our holidays, we plan our bank accounts, we plan our jobs, we plan our everything. But we don't really plan our nutrition properly, right? And then the final thing I would say is that it's almost without exception. Obviously, this is a generalization that we're all overnourished because of accessibility to food.
Yeah.
Right? We're all overnourished. We all eat a little bit too much. Right? So if you're able to control that and understand your BMI, understand what your body needs, understand what the stresses are, understand what your output is, then you'll know what your input would be. And it doesn't have to be counting calories and worrying about this and worrying about that. But in general, over a period of time, it's the same thing with protein intake. With protein intake, I never say to people, take this amount of grams per day. That's what you need to be reached. I say within that margin, right? So we know, for example, 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram is kind of what is the generally acceptable right now. And I always say generally acceptable right now because these things are always kind of adapting. We learn more, we change more or less, etc. I say to people, just, some days you'll have, I don't know, 10. The next day you'll have 25. At the end, you're kind of balanced between the 1.6 to the 2.2.
Yeah.
Right? So that's how we should approach it, rather than trying to hit that mark and be stressed about it, which then affects you adversely in a different way.
It does.
So the same with fasting. Don't stress about it too much. First of all, I would look at your intake. Understand output versus input. It's pure science. It's mathematics, right? So if you're spending 2,000 calories but consuming 3,000 calories per day, what is going to happen to your body? Your body is going to store, especially it depends on what kind of calories you're taking in, your body's going to store it somehow, right? It's either going to build muscle, depending on what you're doing, especially if it's protein, the source is of the calories. If it is something else, it's going to store it somewhere else for later on. That's what we do. When we hunted in the past, when food is abundant, the body stores that fat for the period of time when the food is not so abundant, usually in winter, when there are fewer animals, we weren't able to go out hunting, etc., depending where we are in the world, we stored fat to keep us warm, to sustain us until the next season comes, etc. The body is designed to do that. It doesn't do it to spite you. It's a survival mechanism, but it doesn't know that there's always food coming,
True.
So it continuously stores. So understanding that is key. I start there before I jump into any fasting or any GLP-1s or any...
Yeah, what do you have to say about GLP-1 interventions?
I think they're great for certain individuals, especially under, like professional help. And obviously they're designed for people that are, heavily overweight or obese, etc. It's okay. If you do them well, they're able to help you. The biggest problem that I see with them is that people use them as escape.
Yeah.
Meaning that I take them and then I eat whatever I want because I know I can take a little bit more and I could lose a little bit more weight. And now we're seeing with certain clients is that if they keep repeating the same one over and over again, it stops working for them. It no longer helps. And then they panic and then they try something else and it becomes an addiction. It's, I've lost my weight easily. Just 2 weeks and down 7 kgs, down 8 kgs, etc. That means I can eat whatever I want. That's one. Two, they don't focus on their muscle mass. When you lose weight using GLP, most likely you will lose both fat and muscle.
Yeah.
Fat is, obviously we need to manage it all the time because of so many different reasons, be it stress, be it diabetes, be it heart health and so on. But muscle, this is precious cargo. Like you cannot allow it to be lost, especially for women later on, near menopause, for men at any time, even near andropause, for our hormone health, for our mental health, for our energy output, and so on. So It is just a little abused at the moment.
Yeah.
But I feel that people are learning a lot more, especially with conversations like these, and they're becoming a lot more, it used to be just come in and give me whatever. Now it's they come in and they ask, what do you think? Would I be able to do it? What else do I need to do if I'm taking this? And, this is what people should be asking as far as questions are concerned. Okay, so GLP-1 may be an option for me, but what does that mean? I just take them and stick with my terrible lifestyle, or do I to make other changes too? Remember, these are tools, and they're not the end all,
Of course.
So all of these different things together, no matter what they are, there isn't a single thing that you can, we can mention today that I would say do this, and you don't really have to do anything else. The fundamentals remain the same. Nothing changes. If you eat too much, you're going to gain weight. If you don't move too much, you're going to gain weight. If you don't recover or sleep well enough, you're going to lose mental health, and you're going to lose general nervous system regulation, resilience, and so on. So the fundamentals remain the most important, and then these tools you will use strategically. So, and again, I go back to the same analogy as I said before. In planning, but also for this, everything in our lives, we know exactly, and we kind of be strategic about it. Let's say our bank account, we know that this card is better than this card, and this insurance will do better than this insurance, and we know all of that. But when it comes to our health, it's just, whatever, just let's see what that happens. Because we don't see the gravity of it. The body is so good at concealing stuff that it only shows it to you when it's too late, you know?
Yeah.
And a very simple example is thirst. You're thirsty, that means you're already dehydrated. The body doesn't alert you when you are becoming dehydrated. When you're thirsty, you're desperate. Now you need water, So, and most systems in the body kind of is the same, work in most of the same way.
That's true. And I think, pharma does try to help. They've come up with the statins and the PCSK9 inhibitors. Now they have GLP-1s. They're going to mix it with myostatin inhibitors to preserve muscle. And people are, of course, looking for escapes. Like I've seen it work like a charm on many individuals. And the same can be said about many other things. Like, and I tell them that, who do you think brought in steroids? It was pharma. And there were many steroids out there. One very popularly used, it's called Trembolone. And that was pharma, that was French pharma that brought in that steroid to the market. There was this one time when they had DNP, which is a toxin. It's a very toxic substance. It was used for weight loss. Now it's used in rat poison. So, with all the best intentions, of course, it's not unusual that some of the things that have come to the market at some point, once longitudinal studies have concluded that, this is not good for this, they have been de-shelved or something better has come. So I think it's also important to not forget that exercise on its own is the best medicine, so to speak. And it's just the single most effective way to, irrespective of whether somebody has got some bad genes or comorbidities, it's the single most effective way to extend lifespan and health span.
100%. But again, even in that,
Right.
more is not more.
Yeah, of course.
Balance is more.
Balance is more.
So the variety of exercise is key. The body, as I said earlier, is capable of amazing things.
Yeah.
And the machines that we use generally, if we're only using machines, they're designed almost in a singular way. They're getting better. Obviously, there's a lot of really cool machinery out there right now, especially in the last few years. There's been a major shift. Even in treadmills, they move side to side now. There's so many different things because the body is capable of so much more. But in general, for the average individuals like you and I, we go to a machine, we go to a bench, we push, we pull. This is the body. This is the most basic movement you could do, right?
Yeah.
So as long as you understand that and you respect the body's ability to do so many different things and you do a variety of things, I completely and absolutely agree with you that there is no better replacement. Going back to pharma a little bit, just quickly, it's very important, and I remind people of that all the time, is that no matter what the source of the drug, the supplement, the peptide, whatever it is, it's never the intention of you and your health. Usually the whole motivator is money. So therefore, if you buy a piece of supplement, their number one priority is not how healthy you are. It's at how quickly it would sell, and would you buy it, yes or no?
Correct.
Right? That's the number one. So we need to be our own protectors, right? We can't depend on brands, on marketers to protect us from ourselves and decisions. You have to read the label. You have to understand what you're putting into your body, and you have to speak to people that perhaps know a little bit more than you do in order for you to get the right information. And now we're empowered even more with AI and all of the different tools that are out there. There is no excuse for anyone to be taking something on face value, you
Right.
know? So I see the industry right now, our industry, the wellness industry, the well-being industry, as run by marketers at the moment, right?
Yeah.
You know, very little regulations, lots of people saying lots of things, and everyone is hyper focused on shortcuts. And you know, if you're not doing this, you're missing out. There's always, you know, the tactics are the same.
Yeah.
If you're selling shoes or if you're selling health,
Yeah.
it's the same thing.
And
FOMO.
they're doing a great job at selling all of that. Yesterday, I met this one gentleman, and he had he had like 100% like a 45, 50-inch waist. And he comes up to me and he asks me, you know, I do my exercise and I try and eat healthy, but do you think I should buy a red light machine? And that's exactly what you're saying, right? Because they're doing such a great job at talking about the benefits of all these tools.
Yeah.
And yesterday when I had Andy in, who was selling the PEMF mats and devices,
Yeah.
he said, no, that's not how you do it. Of course, this is going to help, but you don't miss out on the core foundations, which is exactly what you and I talk about, you know, like the nutrition and exercise, and not to miss out on stress management and resilience and all those things.
Mental health, recovery, all of these things.
Yeah.
These are the fundamentals that will make you stronger in everything that you do in life.
Right.
Everything. Be it with your family, be it with your partner, be it with work, be it how you behave in society. Everything comes from that. It doesn't come from red light, it doesn't come from hyperbaric chambers, it doesn't come from any of those. These are tools just like everything else. You know, we can still run without shoes, but in shoes is a little more comfortable. Think of all of these as a piece of equipment that may assist you in what you're trying to do. But does it stop you from doing what you need to do and achieve it? You know, you could still go from A to B without shoes, but shoes makes it a little bit more comfortable. And these are, you have to think about all of these, you know. Anyway, so yeah, unfortunately, as I said, as we said, the space is being run by marketers and brands and content creators, and not people that have, you know, just a grounded advice that's been around for decades and decades. You
Yeah.
know, ever since the 70s, you know, when the first workout show came on TV, still has the same message, right? It's the same exact thing, but now it's compounded with all these other tools that now we've made accessible, which is great because they add convenience. It's part of the modern life that we live in because we're always running from A to B. That they can provide convenience, but that's exactly it. Let's not confuse it with the main event, you know, which is proper sunlight, which is spending time with others, which is, you know, eating healthy whenever you can, moving, sleeping well, recovering as best you can. And all of these, this is where the main event is. All of the others are just in the fringes.
Right. So how would you, let's say, you know, somebody comes to you for a program. What are some strategies to go to build resilience and to deal with stress? What are your go-to strategies, and what's your philosophy when it comes to that?
Well, I mean, obviously the number one thing, just like in everything else, data is king.
Right.
So understand what are your sources of stress, you know. So, and then once you have a very simple conversation with the people that I work with, it immediately becomes apparent, you know, that their nervous system is overwhelmed. And then we kind of look at what are the sources. In most cases, it's split between two main things. It's either your partner or where your career, what you're doing at work. These are the two main things that kind of affect us the most. Then your mind starts, as we said earlier, sabotaging what you do. You know, was it my fault that things are not working out there? Is it me that's why I'm not being promoted? Or is or this person is being not so great to me. Is it because my fault, or are there terrible people? We're constantly focused on the things that we either blame ourselves for or we have no control over.
Yeah.
And that adds to that low level, what we call inflammaging, low level inflammation that happens in the background that destroys your resilience, right?
Right.
And this is usually evident in people with HRV. So that's why every other person that now we work with have extremely low HRV.
Yeah.
They struggle to lift it up because of that background noise that is constantly happening that you've built over the years and you have not dealt with, you know? So the what we work on mainly is truly going back to the basics, going inside, understanding that, none of this is real, going back, to your core, meditate as much as possible. And it doesn't have to be something of an affair or a whole production. Just doing, 5 breaths, a few times a day. Do it for 5 days and see the transformation, not just in your RV, but in your whole stress reaction. When we go back to the breath, this is the biggest gateway, So it's small bites, stuff that they're able to manage into their day-to-day routine, that have the most impact. But in my experience, almost everyone that we work with, there are 2 main sources of stress. There are obviously a third one in some cases where it's either a loved one that is sick, or maybe they have some chronic disease, or there are other issues that happens, or maybe carried trauma from childhood, a difficult home life, issues that happened in the past that they're carrying with them, and so on. But in most cases, it's either a home situation or work situation. And these are sort of, when you think about them, let's say you get some, God forbid, some serious disease. All of these dwarf, they disappear immediately. And you think, what was I thinking about? But we are not capable of doing that until we are, unfortunately, in a situation where it's a life or death. So making that shift, that you don't need to wait for a life or death situation for you to recognize what is important in life, that changes everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Like a more zoomed out perspective that,
Exactly.
it's so much worse off for so many other people.
Yeah.
And that's where, when I'm speaking to individuals, I'm like, okay, you know what? Respect what you have, appreciate what you have. I'll have the same 2 kinds of situations for 2 different individuals, and one would be looking for what's wrong, and one would be looking for everything that's right and what's the next journey up.
Exactly.
So I think attitudes really matter. And like you said, if you shed light on what they could probably work on, because we have this system where we go by feedback. So, you give feedback to me, I give feedback to you. What could I do better as a coach? That's what I tell the team. Always look for opportunities where you can get better as a coach. So, whether they can up their accountability levels, etc., all of that. And then give feedback as well, right? You fine if you expected me to check on you, if you've had your meals right, if you've done your 10,000 steps. My feedback to you would be, I'll do it for you, but at the same time, know that this is all happening for you. So try and get those 10,000 steps, irrespective of whether I'm there or somebody else is there. And that way, it's a more open dialogue, right? It's not like more pinpointing at each other. So just a free flow of conversation. I'll work on the things that I can, and you can work on the things you can. And this has to be a collaborative journey, so to speak. So it's so psychological, trying to empower someone to better their lives in that way. So I think that's good. What do you think about all the tech that people are wearing? Like, you were talking about HRV earlier, so I couldn't help myself. And I saw those things that you were using yesterday to figure out what's wrong with somebody's body. I think it works on the same.
Yeah, the bioresonance. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, one of the greatest thing about technology is that it provides information. So and data is very important. When you have data, you have light, and when you have light, you have less doubt. When you have less doubt, you're able to find where the problem is and fix it. So when it comes to the wearables in general, I think they're useful, but as long as they're not taken too seriously. Remember, again, whatever wearable that you have, their number one priority is not you. What is their number one priority is numbers, right? So remember that. That's one. Two, look at averages rather than on the day-to-day stuff. I get so many people that are stressed from particular wearables where on a day-to-day basis they're getting a score. They're being scored by their wearable. If they slept well, if they're ready to work, if they're not ready to work, if they're ready to exercise, not ready to exercise, all of these different things. We're letting an algorithm decide what's happening in our biology. Now, some of it is valid, obviously, because it pulls from a few points of data. But at the end of the day, that also adds to our stress. Most likely, if you slept well or not. Do you need someone to also, when you wake up in the morning, let's say your partner wakes up in the morning and tells you, oh my God, you look terrible today, you're not going to do well. That's not really what you want to hear. Is that, okay, what can we do about this? Maybe I can hydrate a little bit more. Maybe I'll do a little breath work in the morning. So very few wearables actually focus on that aspect of it. Right, so let's say last night you didn't do great. So how can we fix it? What can you do today to fix it? So obviously all of this will come, I'm sure, at one point or another. So I remind people always is to look at averages in the same way, same analogy that we looked at protein or just anything that you do in life. Look at averages because the body doesn't work in minutes. It works over averages. It's able to adjust, right? So for sleep quality, I look at averages. How did I do last week? How did I do last month? And if I see that there are dips, I'll think, okay, so what happened here? Why was there a dip? Oh, it was that's the day where I had 2 conferences back to back, right? Okay, so I get it. I know that it's influencing my body. I don't need to, every time I have 2 conferences, I don't have to look at it again and be sad about it. So when I wear a wearable, I wear it for a short period of time, usually at the beginning of a season. I wear it for a short period of time where I kind of understand how is my body now adjusting to this. And then after a while, I take it off. And then I wear it again a couple of months later and kind of try to understand, okay, what's new in my body? Let's see what's happening. Is my HRV kind of fluctuating too much or this or that? So I like data in general. Being, in the position that I am, I love data. So wearables are good for that as long as they're not taken too seriously and think about them as averages rather than on the day-to-day obsession, especially when paired with other things. There are particular wearables that integrate a few things together, such as a continuous glucose monitor, for example, at the same time, which gives it a much more accurate adjustment to what's your metabolism influencing your stress levels, your sleep, your mental health, and so on. So you get a much better, while others don't do that so well, and so on. I mean, I had someone who wears one of the bands, for example, we won't say the name, but they had an infection under it because it gets so wet, right? So sweating from running, exercising, etc., and you don't really take it off except maybe once a week to charge it, right? So underneath it, they had an infection on their skin because of the wetness and and all of that, right? And it changes, yeah. So it's some of them perhaps are not like 100%. I mean, we have to work around them, not to be so obsessed with them. Now, overall, technology is definitely an empowerment, but at the end of the day, like anything else that we talked about today, it's a convenience, right? And knowing things such as your HRV will give you an inclination, especially to the stuff that you don't feel, the underlying current of what your body is doing, what I called earlier inflammaging, which is the resistance, the resilience, of the body overall, right? Which is what you need. And that depletes slowly without you realizing. So keeping an eye on that line is really important. And HRV does that for you.
Right.
So if you're able to keep your HRV at a particular level, you're able to sustain your resilience for a much longer period of time, right?
What do you use for HRV?
I use my bed. I usually use more than one source of HRV. What do you mean? Like how to measure it?
The device, yeah. How do you measure?
So I use my bed, my 8 sleep. My 8 sleep is because it measures me throughout the night and it has sensors across the bed. So it gives me a slightly more accurate HRV. I mean, as you know, again, they're all sensors. So it's as accurate as it can be. So HRV stands for heart rate variability. That means it's measuring every time the heart rate is changing, right? And the higher it is, the healthier you are in general as far as your central nervous system. So that I also use Ultrahuman at the moment. And occasionally I look at my Apple Watch too. So between these three, and you'll see if you have more than one, you actually each one gives you a slightly different one, right?
Mine is significantly different. So I
Yeah.
use the heart math and I use the Whoop.
Yeah.
The Whoop always gives me really bad scores.
Yeah.
And the heart math says that I have great HRV.
Yeah.
I think it also matters from where you're measuring it. So if it's at a distal end of your arm or something like that, and if it's really cold, then it doesn't get like accurate data.
Or too
consistent-
hot.
Or too hot.
Yeah, it's yes, that's true. That's all very true. Remember, there are a few data points where HRV is measured from, right? And it depends on the quality of the sensor too, right? So it depends which one is using what. Now, for a few of the main wearables, they use sensors from the same manufacturer, so they all kind of do the same thing. What difference then is the price, the comfort, the color, or whatever it is, you know. And then the other thing that is a huge thing for me is subscription.
Right.
You know, so they all have subscription, with the exception of Ultrahuman, for example. Ultrahuman doesn't have to. You buy it once and that's it. You don't need to worry about anything else.
It's an Indian company.
Yes, I know.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know. I'm great friends with them. They're awesome people. They're very innovative and they're doing great things. Now they have a home monitor that pairs with everything else that you do. So it's not just your body, but it also monitors your environment, which is incredible for air quality, for noise quality, etc., etc. So they're all constantly innovating. Anyway, so and this is what I love about this region. You know, we're leading wellness all over the world.
Yeah.
But we're constantly looking abroad for the latest thing. You know, but with all the red tape, with all the slowness, with all the issues that all these places are having, you know, be it politically or economically or whatever, this place is almost, it seems, unlimited in resources, in people, in geniuses, in great individuals that want to make a difference. We do amazing things here.
Yes, that's true, 100%.
Yeah.
So, do you have any questions if you want to ask? Because
No, I am thrilled to see someone so much younger than I am being so ahead of the curve or everything else, that it's a privilege to be with you and to have this chat with you. I know it's a long time coming. We've been trying for a while to get this done.
Yes.
But I'm glad you came to Dubai this time, and hopefully I'll see you next time.
Yes.
And thank you for having me.
Yes. Before we leave, I would like to say that, he's somebody who I really respect and look up to. He's also into leadership. He's a Harvard alum, and I think you've done a leadership program there. He's also into exercises and sports sciences. So there's a lot of relatability that I have. And if I don't know how old you are, how old are you?
Chronologically or biologically?
Chronologically.
Chronologically, I'm 53, turning 54 next month.
Yeah.
But biologically, I'm in early 30s.
So he's like my goal. Like, if I get to look like him, like, I don't know if you can see it on camera. He's like got this fresh skin and managing stress really well. And he was right up to the point where, we entered into the podcast. He was still doing his work. And I go like, okay, if I were to deal with so much work, how is it going to be in my life? Because, I'll be scattered and everything. And he's doing such a great job. He's one of the leading pioneers in this region with the kind of values and the thought process that he has. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of fluff. And I think whatever we've just discussed today tells me that he's all about real results, and everything that he said here today is all backed by science. It's something which has repeatedly been proven in very long-term studies. Multiple resources can contribute to the fact that whatever he's talking about is written in stone. It's not like, something's just being researched and it shows promise. No, this is all legitimate. Every single thing that he's just spoken about is all the real stuff that matters. So I really respect him for, doing this for the individuals, for this region, and, knowing his journey as well, which shows that he does it from a more purposeful place. Right?
100%.
He does it from a deep sense of care for individuals and himself and his family, and he would love for the world to share his vision and values. So if you're in Dubai, please visit him at Limitless Human. He's busy trying to get a schedule up ahead of time so that you can meet him and speak to him and get some deep insights into what he does and how he can contribute to your lives. So thanks for coming. Really
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.